Hello there. Welcome to my open campus video lecture. My name is Lindsay Nelson, and I am a professor in the Department of Political Science and Economics at Meiji University. You can call me Professor Nelson or just Professor. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about my research, and then I'm going to give a short presentation that is similar to the presentation I give in one of my classes on pop music and popular culture. So again, my name is Lindsay Nelson. I am originally from Austin, Texas in the United States. I have lived in Japan for almost 20 years total. I came here first after university and then also came here to study. So my research focuses on Japanese cinema and Japanese popular culture. And in particular, my research focuses on Japanese horror films. So I have written and researched and published a lot on Japanese horror movies and scary things. But don't worry, none of my classes are focused on horror movies specifically because I think most people are a little bit scared of horror movies, so I don't focus on that in my classes. Here at Meiji, I teach a couple of different kinds of classes. I teach in the ACE program, which is the Advanced Communicative English program, which includes classes like general communication skills, content-based study, and also presentation skills classes. So I have taught ACE classes called Popular Music and Popular Culture, U.S. University and High School Life, World News. Those are some of the topics I have taught. I also teach a class called Haunted Japan, which is kind of about ghosts and spooky things in Japan. And I teach a zemi, a seminar on cinema, where the first semester of the zemi, we just focus on cinema, the language of cinema. And then the second semester, we focus on Japanese cinema, more specifically. All of my classes are taught in English, but occasionally there will be a little bit of Japanese explanation in the classes. 私の授業に何か、複雑な概念があれば少し日本語で説明します。So I do a little bit of explanation in Japanese. So now I'd just like to take you through the introduction to one of my ACE classes, pop music and popular culture. So I'm going to share some slides with you here. So ACE pop music and popular culture. Here we can see the images of a couple of famous pop stars that you might have seen before. There's Harry Styles, there's Beyonce, there's Taylor Swift, there's Justin Bieber, there's Lady Gaga. So maybe these are some people that you like to listen to, or maybe you have just heard of them. So in this class, specifically, these are some of the questions that we think about. The first question is, what can we learn from pop music? I think that when we think about pop music, it's usually just for fun. It's a fun thing that we listen to or experience, but pop music can also be educational. It can teach us a lot about a culture and a time period. It can teach us about what we want and what we dream about as people. And similarly, another question is, what can pop music and pop singers teach us about what is valuable in a culture? If we listen to the lyrics of pop songs, if we look at pop bands and singers, I think we can learn a lot about what we idolize, what we want to be, what kind of relationships we want to have, what kind of clothes we want to wear. All of this, I think we can learn from pop music. And how does pop music influence our feelings about love, relationships, and gender? In particular, recently, I think a lot of pop music has made us rethink our ideas about gender, about what it means to be a man or a woman, what it means to be straight or gay or bisexual or transgender. We are seeing a lot more examples in pop music of people who are breaking the rules when it comes to how to dress or how to appear masculine or feminine. And I think that the pop music industry has a lot to teach us about that. And another question to think about is, what is the pop music industry selling? What is it selling? Of course, in the Department of Political Science and Economics, it's important to think about the economics of certain industries. And of course, the pop music industry is selling music. They're selling songs, CDs in the past, not so much anymore. But now with the rise of online streaming and the fact that most of us can get our music for free in some way, the pop music industry has had to change its model a lot. And I think now the pop music industry is kind of selling content and not so much music. It is selling a brand, it's selling a lifestyle, and it is also selling intimate connection with pop stars and pop groups in a way that might have been impossible in the past. So those are just some of the big questions that we will be thinking about in my class. So what does a typical class look like? What does one of my classes look like? Well, here's a typical schedule. It's not always like this, but this is what a class might look like. So we would start in my class with a warm-up, about 5 minutes of a short, easy speaking activity, might move around the room a little bit. And then we would have something called a music introduction. This is similar to a presentation, but it's a little bit different. For a music introduction, I just ask you, one student, maybe two, to come up to the front of the class and just talk about one of your favorite singers or songs, and maybe also play a short video of that singer or song. And you just talk about why you like them or what is interesting to you about them. And then me and some of your classmates might ask you a question or make a comment about this singer or band. So that usually takes about 10 minutes. We'll have either one or two people will introduce us to some new singers or bands. And I also make a YouTube playlist of all the singers or bands that are introduced so that everybody can go and listen to that music if they want to. Next, we will review the homework assignment for that day. Each week, I will usually give you one piece of reading or a video to watch. These will be in English, of course. If it's a video, sometimes it will have Japanese subtitles, but if it's a reading, it will just be in English. They're pretty short. The readings are maybe like one page, one A4 page. And the videos are usually just a few minutes, but again, they might have English subtitles. And so we'll go over that reading and video, and everybody will have a chance to ask questions. I also give you the chance to email me questions anonymously. So if you don't want to raise your hand, you can email me questions and I'll ask them. Then I will usually put you into groups to talk about the worksheet questions. There will be questions on the worksheet related to the reading and in English. We speak English pretty much the entire time in this class. You can divide into groups and discuss the worksheet questions. Then we take a break. 100 minutes is kind of a long time for a class. So everybody needs a little break. So we take about 5 minutes break. And then we continue to discuss the worksheet questions. After that, I might have a short lecture to give about that week's topic. And then at the end of class, there will usually be some kind of group or individual activity, maybe some writing practice, maybe some speaking or listening. So that's kind of a typical class. Again, they're not always exactly the same, but that's what one might look like. So I know we're not in the same room right now, but here are two questions, or here are some questions that I might ask you to think about in the context of our class. So this first question is, why is pop music important? Or why is it not important, if you think it's not important? So just think about that question for a second. You can pause the video and come back if you want to, okay? Think about that question. Okay, did you think about it? So what do you think? Is pop music important? Is it not important? Personally, I think it's important because it is a reflection of culture, and it is a reflection of trends and fashions. So I think if we want to learn a little bit, not everything, but a little bit about the trends and fashions of a particular culture, I think pop music has a lot to teach us. I also think that pop music is just enjoyable. We need things to enjoy in our lives. And I think particularly for young people, pop music is fun. It's fun to listen to. And that's important as well. Not everything that's important has to be serious. Another question to think about: how would you describe your musical tastes? For example, what kinds of music do you listen to? And how important is music in your life? Okay, think about this one too. Pause the video and come back. Okay, did you think about it? So I always say that my musical tastes are boring in the sense that I don't really keep up with what is super popular. I just kind of listen to whatever I hear that I like, and I listen to a lot of old stuff too. But these days, I think my musical tastes tend toward what I would call mellow music, meaning that a lot of the music I listen to is kind of quiet and slow. So I listen to instrumental music, sometimes music without singing. I listen to something that was popular in the early 2000s called trip hop, which is just sort of like EDM, but a lot slower. And I listen to pop music from the early 2000s, people like Dido and Sheryl Crow, and kind of rock pop music from there. In terms of how important music is in my life these days, honestly, not that important. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of audio news and stories instead of music. But when I was a teenager, pop music was everything. It was the center of my world. It was all I think about. It's all I thought about, all I talked about. So I remember that very clearly, that there was a time when the only thing I cared about was music. But now it's kind of changed a little bit. Finally, let's just go over some of the vocabulary that we might learn in this class. We'll learn a lot of contemporary vocabulary related to pop music and popular culture. For example, this word stan. This is a kind of recent word that I see now a lot on social media, and it can be both a noun and a verb. So a stan is a really passionate fan. So the BTS stans are the BTS army, the very passionate BTS fans. But it can also be a verb. To stan someone means to passionately support them. So if you stan BTS, it means you are a BTS supporter. You really love them. Another way of talking about that might be to say that someone is a diehard fan. A diehard fan. I think in Japanese you might say daifan, but in English we would say diehard fan. A diehard fan is a really passionate fan. Another thing that you might say if you really love something is I'm obsessed with. I'm obsessed with. So I'm obsessed with Ariana Grande. I'm obsessed with Taylor Swift. These are really, really passionate feelings about a singer or a band. When we talk about pop music and pop culture too, we might also talk about people or groups who are controversial. Controversial meaning they cause controversy. Some people love them, some people hate them. And sometimes they do or say things that are shocking to society, and that is controversial. And that raises another question, which is, does a pop star need to be a role model? A role model, meaning kind of someone that other people look up to and see as a model for behavior. And many pop stars in the United States, for example, they don't really feel like they should be role models. They're not trying to be representative of, the best of people. But historically, young pop stars in particular have often been told that they need to be role models. They need to always be on their best behavior because young people look up to them. And finally, just another phrase that I started hearing maybe about 5-10 years ago is my jam. That song is my jam, meaning I really love that song. And your jam is kind of like your dance or your best thing. So to say that song is my jam means I really, really love that song. Okay, so I hope that gives you some idea of what one of my classes might look like. I think that in general, in all of my classes, I talked a lot in this video, but I tried to give you, the students, as much opportunity as possible to speak on your own. So there's not a lot of lecture. There's not a lot of me talking. The focus is on you talking in groups in front of the class in different circumstances. So please check out my classes. I hope to see you in them at some point. I will be on sabbatical in the year 2023, but in the near future, please check out my Zemi, check out my other classes, and I really hope to see you in my classes someday. Thanks so much for listening. Take care.